Have you ever wondered why transformations and shapeshifting are so prevalent in Greek mythology? Well, Greek mythology is overflowing with stories of metamorphosis. Did you know that Zeus, the king of the Greek gods, once took the form of golden rain to seduce a mortal girl named Danaë? Or were you aware about the story of Circe, an ancient witch who transformed all the men of Odysseus into pigs? Greek mythology's characters constantly test the barrier between humans, gods, and nature. Welcome to the history realm. Today we go over the 13 most famous stories of transformation in Greek mythology. Make sure you press the like button to support our channel. Now, the master of shapeshifting in Greek mythology is Proteus, a sea god who constantly changes form and always avoids answering questions. However, transformation is the main subject of many stories, from Homer's Odyssey to Ovid's Metamorphoses. In fact, it seems that for Greek and Roman myths, it was commonplace for gods to shapeshift in order to seduce mortals. Gods also had the power to transform other individuals into other entities to punish or reward them. First on the list is Dionysus and the pirates. Now, in one myth, Dionysus, the god of wine, took a young man's form and began wandering on the earth near a sea somewhere. But some Tyrrhenian pirates saw him and kidnapped the god, unaware of his real identity. While the pirates were tying down Dionysus, with the intention to sell him to slavery, the ship's pilot, named Aquates, understood that something was wrong with the character they had abducted. Believing that behind the young man hid a god, Aquates attempted to stop his crew. When the pirates ignored him, Dionysus eventually showed who he really was and filled the ship with monsters and vines. The pirates jumped off the ship and went straight into the ocean out of fear. At that point, they were transformed into dolphins. The only one that was spared was Aquates. Next, we have Leda. She was the daughter of the Aetolian king Theseus, and the day she got married to her husband Tyndareus was also the day that she happened to attract the interest of the king of the gods Zeus. He took the shape of a swan and seduced Leda. Afterward, Leda spent the night with Tyndareus. This strange story led to an even stranger outcome. Leda produced 2 eggs from which Clytemnestra, Helen of Troy, Castor, and Pollux all sprung from. Regarding who was a child of Tyndareus and who was a child of Zeus, the ancient accounts differ. Now we have the story of Europa's abduction. This is yet another story of Zeus, transforming himself into an animal to seduce a mortal woman. In this case, the god took the shape of a bull. Europa was a descendant of the nymph Io from Phoenix. Zeus transformed into a white bull and went about the court of her father Agenor, the king of Tyre, mixing with other animals. Europa eventually climbed onto the bull's back and petted him. Zeus seized the chance and took off with the woman to the island of Crete, where eventually Europa would become a queen and gave her name to the whole continent now known as Europe. Did you know about this myth? If not, let me know if you would like me to make a dedicated video about this in the comments below. Next is a quick story, the story of Ganymede. According to the myth, Ganymede was born in Troy. As a young adolescent of exceptional beauty, he caught the eye of the gods, and more specifically, Zeus. The god transformed himself into an eagle and kidnapped Ganymede, carrying him to Olympus. There, the young man served as a cupbearer of the gods. Zeus ensured that Ganymede would remain immortal and eternally young. In Virgil, Hera, Zeus's wife, considered Ganymede as an adversary who has erotic relations with Zeus. Alright, moving on. Now we have the story of Danaë. Danaë's story implicates Zeus again, the king of the Olympian gods. Up until now, we have seen Zeus taking the shape of an eagle, a swan, and a bull. However, for the love of the beautiful Danaë, mother of Perseus, Zeus went one step further. To claim Danaë, the immortal god, became a rain of gold. The story is the following. Danaë was the daughter of King Acrisius of Argos. Acrisius was told a prophecy that he would be killed by the son of his daughter. In order to ensure that the prophecy would not come to pass, Acrisius had Danaë imprisoned beneath the royal palace in a bronze chamber designed especially for her. If the gods hadn't interfered, this scheme would have succeeded. In summary, Zeus appeared as golden rain and crept through Danaë's chamber's ceiling. In the end, Danaë gave birth to Perseus, and Acrisius understood that resisting one's fate is futile. Alright, up next is Pygmalion. This man was a sculptor who had become frustrated with the immorality of certain women. Having decided to abstain from female company, he put his best efforts into creating the perfect sculpture of a woman. Pygmalion eventually created the most exquisite representation of a woman. It was so perfect that he became obsessed with it. Before he knew it, Pygmalion was in love with the statue and began calling it his wife. Pygmalion begged Aphrodite, the goddess of love, to grant him a wife who looked like his statue during one of her festivals, and the goddess listened. When the sculptor returned home, he discovered that his sculpture was becoming more and more alive the more he touched her. Ultimately, Pygmalion's wish came true. Pygmalion and the statue, who was now a real woman, were eventually married by Aphrodite herself. If you would like to get the full story of Pygmalion, check out the video linked in the description below. Alright, moving on. Once upon a time, Apollo, the god of music, offended Eros, the god of love. Angry with Apollo, Eros created the ideal retaliation. Using his powers, he caused Apollo to become intensely attracted to Daphne, the river nymph. However, he also made sure that Daphne would be powerfully repulsed by Apollo. The god could not control his emotions and hunted down Daphne, who had also taken an oath to remain a virgin for life. As Apollo hunted Daphne, the nymph could tell that the god was catching up with her. At the last moment, and as Apollo grabbed her, she screamed for the help of her father, the river god Peneus. The river god then transformed Daphne into a laurel tree, in Greek, a Daphne tree. Apollo never forgot his love for Daphne and took care of the tree, ensuring that its leaves would always remain green. Moving forward, Narcissus was an extremely young man whose beauty attracted the interest of a nymph called Echo. When she revealed her love, Narcissus rejected her and asked her to leave him alone. Heartbroken, Echo left and began roaming alone. Her sorrow was so great that her body vanished into the air. The only thing that remained was her voice, which can still be heard in the woods and the mountains. The sad ending of Echo enraged the goddess of revenge, Nemesis, who decided to punish Narcissus. One day, Nemesis lured the young man to drink water from a pool with calm, mirror-like water. Narcissus saw his reflection on the water and fell in love with his reflection. The tragic end of Narcissus came soon thereafter. Once he realized that his idol was beyond his reach, Narcissus felt anguish beyond reason. Having given up on life, he lay down on the ground and was transformed into a flower with white petals and a yellow heart. This full story will also be in the description below, if you would like to check it out. Next, we have a woman from Lydia with legendary weaving skills. When people saw her tapestries, they always told her that she is truly blessed by Athena, the patron deity of weaving. Her name was Arachne, and Arachne did not believe that she owed anything to the goddess Athena, and openly challenged her. Athena heard Arachne's remarks and visited her workshop. The mortal woman and the goddess decided to solve their differences with a weaving competition. Athena weaved a tapestry showing the gods as righteous and powerful guardians of order. Arachne weaved 18 examples of gods transforming themselves into something else to cheat and rape mortals. In the end, Athena could not find anything wrong with Arachne's tapestry. In fact, Arachne might have surpassed the goddess. Athena could not bear this. She tore Arachne's work and hit her 3 times on the head. Arachne could not take the pain, so she hanged herself. At that moment, Athena felt pity for the woman and decided to spare her life but not let her go unpunished. She then transformed Arachne into the first spider. Arachne was no longer human, but she could still weave her web, one of Greek mythology's most tragic characters. Do you agree? Anyways, next we have a well-known story. Few other Greek myths have received as much attention as that of the Gorgon Medusa. Everyone knows more or less what Medusa can do. She has snakes instead of hair and eyes that can turn those looking at them into stone. But how did Medusa end up like that? Well, make sure you hit the like button and find out. Anyways, everything began when Poseidon, the ocean god, he raped Medusa inside a temple belonging to Athena. The goddess, unable to exact revenge on one of her equals, an immortal Olympian god, channeled her rage for the sacrilege of her sacred space towards the innocent Medusa. Athena transformed Medusa into a hideous being, an entity so appalling and terrifying that she transformed those who looked at her into stone. More disturbing than this injustice is what Athena did next. For unknown reasons, Athena was not content with Medusa's punishment, so she decided to help the hero Perseus in his quest to kill Medusa. In the end, Perseus beheaded Medusa, and Athena took the head of the unfortunate woman and hanged it on her aegis where it remained. For the full story of this epic tragedy, check the description below. Alright, almost to the end of the list. In the Odyssey, Homer's epic poem, Odysseus and his companion are trying to return to Ithaca after the Trojan War. On their way back, they wash up on the shore of an island inhabited by a powerful witch, and one of Greek mythology's most interesting characters named Circe. Circe invites Odysseus's companions to a feast and uses her powers to transform them into pigs. Only one man manages to escape, and he runs back to Odysseus and his other companions to let them know what happened. With the help of Hermes, Odysseus will manage to convince Circe to break the enchantment and make his companions human again. The weird part of this story is not so much that Circe transformed Odysseus's men into pigs. The weird part is that Odysseus lived with Circe for 1 year, and together they had 2 sons. Moving on, Europa's brother Cadmus set out to search for his sister across Greece when Zeus kidnapped her. Upon arriving in Delphi, he sought advice from the oracle, who advised him to abandon his search for Europa. Rather, he was told to follow a cow and build a city where she lays down. Cadmus acted accordingly. He made the decision to plant the dragon's teeth, which he had slain in a previous quest. The teeth developed into the Sparti, a group of formidable fighters. Cadmus established Thebes with their assistance, and the Sparti rose to become the leader of the Theban nobility. All right, last but not least, the story of Deucalion, the Noah of Greek mythology. Deucalion is one of the most interesting characters in Greek mythology. He was considered the ancestor of the Greeks. In the same way, in many of Greek mythology stories, Perseus was considered the ancestor of the Persians. In Greek mythology, Deucalion is a character with a story that is obviously parallel to Noah's in the Old Testament. More specifically, Deucalion appears as a man who made an ark to save himself and his wife, named Pyrrha, from a flood sent by Zeus to eradicate humanity. Deucalion and his wife wandered on the flooded earth until finally finding land on the tip of Mountain Parnassus. After offering sacrifices to the gods, the couple asked how humanity could be reborn. Hermes, the messenger god, told them to throw stones behind them as they walk. Deucalion and Pyrrha acted accordingly. The stones thrown by Deucalion grew into men and those of Pyrrha into women. Humanity was then born again. Well, there you have it. If you enjoyed this video, please share and press the like button below. This will help our channel. Don't let the stories end here. I have linked another great story above, here for you to enjoy. Until next time, on the History Realm.